Hello and welcome to our complimentary webinar, which is brought to you today in partnership with Snapshotz, Auscontact's accreditation partner, which is entitled Frank about customer service delivery. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes, and during that time, with the help of today's special guests, Emma and Dave, we hope will spark your interest and engage you in the conversation that we're having, as well as provide some ideas to take back to your respective businesses. To round off the session, we'll be having a Q&A. I'm Fiona Keogh, CEO of Auscontact and your moderator. While we're waiting for everyone to join us, let's use the time wisely to quickly run through some housekeeping with you. Remember to interact with us to maximise the benefit, and as you know, there's no need to take too many notes because we'll be providing you with the recording of the webinar. To interact with us, please use the Q&A button on the control panel. You can ask questions and or make comments for our guest speakers, Dave, Emma and Deepak from time to time, or if you want to leave me a message, you can do that too. But don't forget, we are going to have a full Q&A at the end of the webinar, so please type your questions as we go along so you actually don't forget to ask them. If you're listening through headphones or speakers and experience any issues with your internet connection, please note that if you're quick enough, you can use the raise hand button on the control panel and the Auscontact team will rush to your aid, or you can revert to the email with the link to the webinar, and the relevant phone numbers and access codes are available there for you to reconnect. I know that many of you are familiar with asking questions, but we should try out the control panel now, just in case you haven't been to a webinar previously. And the question for today, and that's with apologies to all of our guests because they're all from across the ditch. Australia is celebrating their First Nations people this week. What is the name of the week? Now, it's a very important week in terms of our nation. Remembering that our First Nations people have been on the land for over 65,000 years. Susanna knows the answer. Danielle knows the answer. Okay, so for those of you just in the interest of time, the answer is NAIDOC. And NAIDOC, the NAIDOC acronym actually stands for National Aborigines and Islanders Day Observance Committee. And the theme I really, really love for this year, and it is always was, always will be. Okay, so we obviously know how to use the questions Q&A button. So let me introduce you to our two key speakers, Emma Noble-Beasley, who is the General Manager Contact Centre at Kiwibank, and Dave Riches, Manager of Business Excellence at Auckland Council, who's a very familiar friend to our audience. So let me tell you more about Emma first, and then I'll let you know a bit more about Dave. As I said, Emma is the General Manager of the Contact Centre at Kiwibank and currently leads the customer experience areas of service and growth. Kiwibank is the largest of the New Zealand-owned banks and is jointly owned by New Zealand Post at 51%, with the Accident Compensation Corporation and the New Zealand Superannuation Fund owning the other 49%. Emma is a highly motivated, results-driven leader with a background in both banking and large, complex contact centres. Growth and development and a focus on the well-being of people in order to achieve and reach their potential are key motivators for her. She believes creating customer-centric environments that encourage innovation and sustainable, resilient businesses are key. To her, successful teams are built by having the right people with the right skills. Then together, you can leverage each other's strengths. This combined with a clear vision, a strong team culture and work ethic, robust coaching practice and consistent discipline creates high-performing teams. So now let's hear a bit more about Dave Riches, the Manager of Business Excellence at Auckland Council, whose objective is to ensure cost-efficient and effective service delivery for the council. The team he leads covers analytics, reporting, workforce management, business improvement, and business planning and performance functions. So he's probably one of the most hated people in the council in reality. Dave holds an MBA, is an accountant by trade, and has a range of expertise and experience across a wide range of functions. An experienced project and change manager, having led and delivered projects with technology, digital, finance, and customer service management in both the public and private sector. So huge welcome to Emma and Dave. But before we move forward, let's hear a few words from our sponsor, Deepak Selvaratnam from Snapshotz. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you very much, Fiona. It is our pleasure and honor to be part of the Auscontact Association and supporting the association in providing accreditation to its members, a significant value-added service that is not found in every industry association globally. But before I go on a bit more about us, for those of you who have not actually come across Snapshotz before, Snapshotz is, and today, the world's first audit and benchmarking tool for customer service delivery. Snapshotz was launched in 2009. Today has 2,800 plus customers across 35 countries. And importantly, what Snapshotz does is it allows organizations to assess how they are faring against the ISO 18295 customer service standard. To do this, we've got two options. One is you can use a self-assessment option, and the second one is you can have an accredited option or an accreditation option, where you do have somebody come to your site and accredit your center. However, as you know today, that's not possible. But the self-assessment tool is, up to the 11th of November, we have had over 14 organizations globally coming back to use the self-assessment tool. And that self-assessment tool is available on your Auscontact website for you to access, and its rates are fairly special in there. What Snapshotz allows you to do is take away the questions around what do we need to assess, how do we do this, it's too costly, it's too long, and what Snapshotz allows you to do is provide you with a structured approach, a cost-effective approach to understand how your customer service delivery rates against global standards, and importantly, against the ISO 18295 customer service standard. What is also important is that Snapshotz also contains all the global standards around digital customer service delivery. Now, this is a very new part of the globe, really, in terms of being able to understand how digital service delivery sits alongside traditional customer service channels. What is really important is that we now, as far as the customer is concerned, it doesn't matter how we deliver service, they see just the one brand, just the one company. And straddling digital and traditional customer services is important. We need to understand how we manage things like quality and training and all of that against this, and also work with the standards set out by governments globally. Also considering what is today very critical in our digital world is all the new privacy laws that are coming in. I'm sure everybody is fully aware of the privacy law that's kicking in on the 1st of December as far as New Zealand's concerned. There's also laws across in Australia, the GDPR, and across the US and EU as well. So our one ambition is to provide organizations with a simple and easy to use tool which you can use in a structured fashion to understand your current state of service delivery and be able to then plot an ongoing chart forward to be able to serve your customers, to engage your team, and to drive your organization's customer service delivery forward. here's a smattering of some of the customers we have across the globe. But now, without much more ado, I'll hand you back to Fiona.
Thanks, Deepak. And I think one of the great things about the accreditation program with Snapshotz, even with doing your own self-assessment, what you receive is a report that is chock-a-block full of actionable insights. And that's really why you're doing that activity in the first place. So we're going to start grilling our guests. That's what you always do when you have guests, isn't it? You grill them. So we're going to start with Emma. Emma, I have a question for you, and we read out your bio very quickly, very briefly, and clearly you've had a very interesting career in customer service. Have you always been in customer service in the financial services industry, and what has changed over the years?
Gosh, big question. So I'll start with what I've been up to first. So I have always been in customer services in contact centres or digital and channels. I did spend a few years in government, but still in the same kind of field. You can't live in the capital city of New Zealand without a wee stint in government. So I found that really, really interesting, but actually was attracted back into the financial services industry. Key changes, technology is probably the biggest change that I've seen over time. There's been great advances to expand to more channels in the contact centre, making life more improved from both an employee and a customer experience perspective. Other things that I've seen, that the role of the contact centre has probably changed quite a lot. The work when I first started in contact centres, it was, especially in financial services, it was answer the phone quickly and transfers our call through to the branch, because they were the king of the servicing part of finance. But the role of the contact centre certainly changed. So they're seen as more valued roles. The work is certainly far more varied. You only need to look at key crises such as COVID lockdowns and things, and in New Zealand, major events like earthquakes and things, where contact centre is the constant around the organisation and being there for customers. The third area I'd sort of say is the service shift, especially in financial services. So from simple transactional servicing through to more advisory and complex, and I believe that trend will just continue.
Thanks, Emma. The next question's for Dave, and I'm not sure if he's still with us. We may be having some technology challenges, and I think that is correct. He has probably dropped out. So Deepak, maybe I can get you to just share a little bit. On the next slide, I believe you've got a very interesting statistic, which is around that prior to March of 2020, only about 25% of contact centres were actually aligned to the organisation's strategy, which was leading to a disconnect between customer service delivery and the business. Is this a global statistic, or is this more an Australian sort of statistic? And why do you think that's the case?
Fiona, good question. First of all, it is a global statistic, and that comes from our traditional roots, where customer service was basically an adjunct in the organization, sat in the basement and provided basic administrative services. They were a pain and had to be in place. Over the years, we've taken on a much more of a strategic role, a very important role to many organizations, whether you're in the public sector or in the private sector. And whilst we've grown in importance, and COVID-19 has definitely given us that force, as it were. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm having a few difficulties here. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
good. Right. Thank you. And so the both us as industry individuals as well as the organization are yet beginning. We are in a growing path. It's maturing, but we're yet to mature into a strategic part of the organization where we can actually be a lot more than what we are currently progressing. And so organizations and we ourselves in the industry would need to be doing much more to align ourselves to be truly effective for our customers, for the organization, and importantly for our people within service delivery.
Thanks, Deepak. Dave is back with us, so welcome back, Dave.
Apologies.
No. I understand. Technology is our friend and our foe at the same time. So, Dave, you are, we have to say this, a very familiar face with our Auscontact audience, as you've presented with us a couple of times recently. And you've also had a very interesting career straddling finance, project management, and customer service. So before I get you to respond to what Deepak has just said, how did you get there?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So I guess, yes, I have had a bit of a varied industry. I guess my passion is all around transformation or improvement of business. And I guess I started looking at that through the eyes of an accountant and in the finance space, transitioned into kind of the IT world, which I've always had a bit of an interest in, and now I've landed up in customer services. So I guess for me, it's all about change and leading people through change in the best way and most coherent way you possibly can. And I really enjoy learning new environments and dealing with different types of people. So now being in the customer services space, which I have been for the last almost 4 years now at Auckland Council, it has been a real eye-opener, and I've really enjoyed looking at things not just through the internal focus, which you may do with a finance or an IT space, but looking at things through the customer's eyes and looking at seeing how we can change things for the better for them as well. So,
Thanks, Dave. Now, Deepak was just explaining about the stat that he shared around only 25% of centres being aligned to organisation strategy, which is quite scary. Dave, question for you, and then we'll ask Emma, because I know your answers are both going to be no, but I'm going to dig a little bit behind the scenes. So is this statistic true for your organisation? And if not, how have you managed alignment? And can you talk about it with regard to what challenges there have been within the business, staffing, and the general environment?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I definitely will say no. So we do have a very strong focus, link and alignment to the organisational strategy. I guess we look at things from both a top-up and a bottom-down perspective. So we definitely have a seat at the executive or the leadership table, and really work with the leadership to figure out what we can do to make customers' lives easier, and really work at it from that angle. And then from a business planning perspective, we also start from the bottom in terms of the agents and what they need to do, and where they need to be in terms of being able to meet that organisational strategy, and work our way back up as well. So I really think that top up, bottom down approach, kind of looking at things through both lenses, is really important. That's what I'd say.
Thanks, Dave. Emma, can we get a private sector view as opposed to a public sector view?
Sure. So look, I would definitely say in our world that there is alignment, but how that then plays out in practical terms is sometimes the challenge around it. So often it's hard to understand the connection to strategy when a high percentage of your day is on simple transactional and servicing activity. And in our world, such as things like account balances and payment setups, how does that link into wanting to have make Kiwibank better off and things like that, which is our purpose. But, you know, we have been focused on transformation for about the last 12 months in our contact centre, and it's very much on a focus around customer, people, process, and that's in advance of new technology. And that's very aligned to the transformation journey that Kiwibank is on as a whole. And, you know, there is more work to be done in this space. But, you know, there has been a lot of progress to get that alignment and to make sure that people really understand how they can you know, impact that, and you know how their roles and functions actually play a part in it. So having senior leaders come into the business, share the journey regularly, not just about us but about the whole organisation, them taking an interest in what we're doing and what the results are, and having aligned metrics and measures and work streams that link back to the strategy right down to our customer facing roles actually really helps with that alignment and things. So I'd say it's not perfect, but we're certainly well on our way on that journey.
Thanks, Emma. Well, just as a follow-on from that, this is a statistic prior to March of this year, and there's been this thing that's happened to all of us called a pandemic or COVID-19, and congratulations to New Zealand on how well you've managed through this particular issue, and it is still an issue. Are there any learnings from the COVID-19 response in being able to better align to the business and customer needs? And maybe, Emma, if I could ask you to respond first, please.
Sure. So look, I tend to work to the rule, never waste a good crisis. And in New Zealand, we've had plenty of those. So I think in every organisation we've had something major where we've had to evacuate buildings or stand up contact centres in very short spaces of time. So look, you know, we utilise the time to fast track initiatives around creating more of a dynamic workforce to really be there for our customers, sharing work where we could and where there was skill, capability, more importantly, capacity to be able to do things. So, you know, during the pandemic, our branches were closed. So we utilised the team members to instead assist with critical outbound contact with our customers, as well as getting them to assist with email for us. So our branches now complete between 20 and 25% of all of our volume, and I'm never taking it back into my part of the business. It's my gift to them. And, you know, we have a lot of really good sharing. So that was really born out of the COVID event. So we had a lot more regular you know, engagement around what was the customer experience, what was the mood of the customer, how do we need to react as an organisation, and we've kept up a lot of that practice as a result of that. So, you know, as I mentioned, the dynamic workforce, it was always within our plan to start leveraging skill and capability and capacity across the whole organisation. It just allowed us to fast track that. Yeah, it's onward and upward for us. That's what a lot of our planning's around now.
Thanks, Emma. And I'm sure the branches are just so excited about you giving them the gift that keeps on giving with email management, or at least 25% of it. Dave, what's your thoughts on COVID-19 and how it's helped you out, or whether it's made a change?
Yeah, I mean, a very similar story to what Emma has said in a lot of ways. I guess the other thing we've seen is a real change in habit from our customers. So obviously local government councils have been around for a long period of time, and you've got kind of a generation of people who have always wanted to either come into a branch, come into a service centre, or give somebody a phone call. And I think through COVID-19 and us having to go into lockdown and close down our branches, we definitely saw a big shift of people who have always done things kind of the traditional way, I'd put it, moving through to more of the digital channel, which is, you know, has been a big focus for Auckland Council over the last, 10 years, I'd say. But it's really given customers that push and allowed them to break that habit. That they've always had, just because there was no other option. And so, getting them there, and we definitely, we armed our contact centre with people who could really, or with knowledge to allow them to be able to help customers to get into that digital channel, and walk them through the processes that they have to undertake. yeah, they might have questions the first time, they might have questions the second time, but by the third time, you know, they're self-serving and they're doing things themselves, and that's been a real shift following COVID for us. I guess the other thing that top of my mind is technology. So, you know, we were always told, you know, we couldn't have a full contact center working from home because the technology that we had just couldn't hold up. When we had our first lockdown, that just couldn't be a reality. So after years and years of us saying, you know, we want to, you know, work on this plan to get more people working from home, it just happened. And overnight, you know, the technology investment was there. Not overnight, but over a few days, the technology investment was there. And we're able to get, you know, we're able to move from having about 20% of our workforce working from home to 100% working from home. And we've taken on a bit of the dynamic culture, dynamic workforce management as well. But we definitely have seen, you know, a huge increase in productivity, you know, as a form of people working from home. And we've just, you know, recently been through an implementation of a brand new contact center solution, and you know, the productivity increases that we got were definitely able to counter out some of the, I guess, the drawbacks or the handling time impacts that we would have had otherwise. So yeah, I guess the customer side has changed and the agent side has changed, you know, through the betterment of digital and technology, and that's really exciting for us.
That's a great segue, Dave, especially around this next statistic that I'm going to ask Deepak to comment on. What a scary number. 61% of customer service heads or leads do not take part in the vendor management process. Deepak, I'm going to put you on the spot. Why?
Right. Thank you again, Fiona. Again, it goes back to traditions where customer service was not, or even if they sometimes did have a seat at management, at the head table of management, the whole technology strategy, customer strategy was all driven by other parts of the organization. And customer service was they just accepted what was given. And today it is not the case. We've got people like Emma, people like Dave, who are very tech savvy and who can actually run and manage those relationships, which is good. But still, there are significant portions of customer service managers who don't engage in that vendor conversation, which is pretty critical to their own team's success and naturally the customer and the organization.
Thanks, Deepak. So I'm going to ask a question of Dave. And you were talking about some of the changes that you've recently implemented. And I know a little birdie told me actually that both of your organisations are in the midst of a communication platform and other technology changes. How much have you been involved in the vendor management process, and what's the benefits of doing so?
So for me, you know, I've been there kind of with bells on from the start. It's probably a little bit of my passion in the technology and digital space that has meant that I've been there. But, you know, even without me, my colleagues who are kind of channel owners in the customer services space have been right in there with the vendors right from the start, right from the moment of, you know, who do we look at and what are our requirements. All the way through the procurement process we took on, and now into a BAU support area. We're kind of working side by side with our vendors, and you know, we're really working to create a partnership between us and the vendor. And I think the days have kind of gone where, you know, as Deepak said, it used to be when it was an IT relationship, and IT were the ones that were forever talking to now where it's more the business, it's the customer services business who is, you know, the key stakeholder, the key sponsor at the table, you know, making sure that we're getting what we need so that we can give our customers the best possible experience. So yeah, it definitely, you know, has been a big part of my life over the last 6 months, and a very enjoyable and rewarding part of it too.
Thanks, Dave. Emma, what would you like to add?
Actually, it's quite a similar story. So I'd say I'm very hands-on. I'm the business owner for our new platform, and I also have a counterpart in our digital and technology part of the business that is the technical owner from a Kiwibank perspective. So, you know, I meet regularly with our vendor and the account team. I'm part of the regular cadence for stand-up meetings, part of the governance process for that. And you know what we've found has worked really well. Much of the points that Dave's talked about is, you know, it is a partnership model as opposed to a straight vendor relationship model. We've got some shared KPIs and goals. It brings alignment, and it's meant that we're actually aiming for the same outcomes. So it makes it an easier conversation, especially if you hit some speed bumps along the way. So I've been on a couple of calls today, and I've been getting text messages from my vendor as we're sitting here, as we're going live in a couple of weeks with our new platforms. So it also helps that we can share the direction that we're going in, understand each other's strategy, and leverage their best practice and knowledge in this space, so that we can build on it and implement the best solution, but very aligned.
Thank you. There's another interesting stat that Deepak's going to share with us now, which is that 68% of customer service centres confuse budgets with a plan, taking a reactive approach rather than a proactive one to building plans. Maybe what I'll do, rather than ask Deepak, because I think that's pretty clear, maybe if we go to Emma. Firstly, double-barrel question, Emma. How does your organisation view a budget? Dave, you've got to listen to because you're going to have to answer as well. And what do you consider are the important elements or characteristics of a successful customer service plan?
Wow, big hitting questions. So look, we are a financial institution, so numbers and budgets are really important to us. We've also, as you heard, we've got some owners, New Zealand Post Group, ACC and New Zealand Super Fund. So actually the whole of New Zealand who in essence own us, that we're accountable to. So making sure that we spend people's money wisely is critical for us. So we do a lot of planning around them, but the budget is more around the cost implications and numbers. Below that actually sits a plan and the detail, which includes metrics, measures, and key initiatives. Within that plan, we can pivot and change and you know, adjust the timelines to work on that. We have a quarterly cycle for planning and delivery, and that is linked to our overall budgets and strategy. So it's key components there. So we work to OKRs, so objectives and key results and things. So, you know, each quarter as part of that cycle, we will adjust the order and priority and the focuses accordingly, to make sure that we're pivoting where we need to.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Collaboration is key, and we make sure through our business planning process, and as we, you know, as we reflect on it throughout the year, quarter on quarter, month on month, that we're bringing our business partners and our council-controlled organisations who we serve, or who our frontline serves, on that journey. We're really making sure that everybody involved in the process, whether it be our channel managers, our team leaders, and the people on the front line, really understand the reason why we're making certain decisions, whether they be business planning decisions or budget decisions, or you know, just process decisions as well. So I really think, yeah, collaboration, taking people on that journey, and making sure people understand the reason why. You know, I think we've all lived through a world where, you know, you're given this target or this objective, or this measure to try and meet, without actually knowing, you know, what's the point in it. And so we make a really conscious effort in making sure that all of our stakeholders and all of the people impacted by those measures in that business plan understand the why behind it. Very
important. You're both Snapshotz customers, which is one of the reasons why you're here. Can you perhaps, Dave, share how you've used the assessment tool in that planning process?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did Snapshotz earlier this year. So it's actually we did Snapshotz and set our benchmark and understood what our actions were, and then went pretty much straight into our business planning process. So it was a very timely reminder of all the different areas that we needed to take on board. I think for me, the three big things about Snapshotz, one is that it's ISO accredited. So it's, there's nobody who's complaining and saying or arguing the point that we're not focusing on the right things or the questions aren't correct or it's, it's not accurate. So being something that is ISO accredited means that, everybody is on the same page and isn't arguing against you. The second for me is that it covers all areas of the customer services business or framework, and I think it's not just about one area. It's not just about how we serve customers or the quality. It looks at everything end to end, and that's really important. I think not to just look at it through one view. And the third for me is that it gets everybody in the room together. And the people who are in the room together are the ones responsible for responsible for the plan and responsible for setting the targets, the outcomes that are there. And it's not it's not a consultant telling you, it's you telling you what you need to do in order to get better and meet the targets.
Thanks, Dave. Emma, can you perhaps share your experience as well?
Sure. So look, we earlier this year did the assessment as well, and what we've done off the back of that is linked it into our quarterly planning around things as well. So very similar story to what Dave's saying on how we did it. We've set ourselves timelines and what are the activities that we will achieve every quarter. The thing that we've also done as part of that is really understood what are the quick wins and what are some of the crunchier things that we can work on. And as we've planned that out, we've made sure that we've had a really good mix so that there's always something that you're achieving and you're always moving forward, because there's some things that are going to take a number of months to embed and actually have the change. So that I'd say overall very similar story, which to Dave, but we had the additional component of making sure that we, as I said, balanced out quick wins with some chunkier pieces of work so that people actually always feel that sense of achievement around it. We've also visually displayed it so people can actually track and measure and see the progress, just as we talk about our wider strategy and direction that we're going. We've got alignment of how we do that as well.
Thanks, Emma. Deepak's going to share an even scarier number now. When this is one of the richness and the benefits of using the Snapshotz tool. That 71% of customer service centres do not track continuous improvement and the impact on customer service delivery, and most importantly for me, especially in the era that we're in, is the impact on staff wellbeing. Deepak, maybe you can share some insights more broadly about why this is occurring.
Thanks again, Fiona. So once again, I hark back to the fact that customer service centers have traditionally being standalone units and being serviced by the rest of the organization. However, it is, whilst this statistic is true, it is also fair to say that there are other areas within the organization that do map continuous improvement, and that has a flow-on impact on customer service. However, the important element for any customer service delivery team is that we need to understand what are, just as Emma referred to earlier, we need to have a roadmap around what are the Kaizen piece, that 1,000 plus boom. We need to be able to understand for each activity that we do, what is the impact it's making, what is the benefit for the customer, what is the benefit for the team, and what is the benefit for the organization. And sadly, because Emma, Dave mentioned, because we're so involved in the operational aspects of life and we are forced to report on those, we tend to lose sight of what we are actually doing to deliver and what we need to do to deliver continuous improvement that will get us past the line.
Thanks, Deepak. So for Emma, and you shared how you've used Snapshotz for tracking, etc. Why do you think it's so? And is it really that difficult to measure because of time constraints or capability, etc.? And again, how has Snapshotz helped you with this?
Look, I think it's a case of not necessarily always having the right tools at hand, which is sometimes the reason that people don't do it. So Snapshotz has actually given us the ability to have a framework and tool sets to be able to do that. Otherwise, it was more a little ad hoc. So it brings a bit of rigor to being able to have a framework and understand the key areas to focus on and work on. But sometimes it's also a case of not being able to take full ownership on improvements. So you have a handoff process, and when suddenly you hand off to someone else, sometimes it's hard to track and measure the outcomes and the results. So by default, we tend to focus on things that you can track and measure that are immediately in front of you. So it's not necessarily time constraint. It is having what's there and available and in front of you that often gets tracked and measured and things. But I've been lucky enough to work in organisations where continuous improvement and the impact not only on staff wellbeing was measured, but also the employee and the customer experience. So we either dollarise them or measure them in another way, such as employee minutes saved or customer minutes saved, and then it makes it more real to the people involved in it, and then they can link it to other customer service metrics, either CSAT or NPS, or in government it's NTS, so Net Trust Score, and actually start to see the tangible outcomes. So we've found that is really helpful, especially if we have to hand over to someone else to complete some of it. We don't fully lose sight of it because we're asking them to track and measure in a way that we can link back to what we do and how we do it.
Thank you. Dave, is your experience similar to Emma's?
Yeah, it is, and I completely agree. Different organisations do things very differently in this space. I'm lucky to have a business improvement team within my team in customer services, and I guess we look at things from both a lag and a lead measure perspective. So from a lag measure perspective, what we look at on a monthly basis is what our customer effort score is doing. So we were very conscious in our customer satisfaction surveys when we set them up to have an effort score that helps us understand, how much effort does a customer feel like they're having to put in when they're trying to do whatever they want to do with council, whether it be request a new bin or report a pothole or book a hall or a building inspection. It's all about how much effort did you have to go to as a customer in order to make that happen. So that's our lag score. That's what we look to see, whether we're doing well and heading in the right direction from a trending perspective. From a lead perspective, we look at very similar things. The amount of processes that we've mapped, the amount of time that we've taken out of a process, the amount of steps that we've taken out of a process. And it is very process orientated, what we do here in council. So since I've been here, we've put in ProMap as a tool, and we really use that in order to keep a really good eye on what processes they're doing. And we have a dashboard where we track how many process maps have gone in, how many have been reviewed on an ongoing basis, and yeah, we really make that the focus when we're implementing or improving a service on behalf of somebody in council.
So really, really structured approach to what you're doing. Yeah, and that makes absolute sense. Deepak has another Snapshotz insight to share, and that is 83% of customer service centres are either remote working, either full or part-time. I think in Australia that probably varies state by state, because there are still some parts of the country that have not come back into the office as yet, with the preference still being wherever you can work from home, continue to do so. Deepak, I'm guessing again that's a global statistic.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Fiona. It is a global statistic. But interestingly, even in states where, or countries and regions where COVID-19 they haven't felt the full force or managed to contain it, even in Auckland, as in Dave's case, customer service teams are working remotely, and this has been a significant impact on their productivity. So yes, it is a global statistic.
Thank you. I really would like to understand from you, Dave, to start off with, what's your experience been with the transition to remote working and then post-transition? So I'll use a for example, if you're located in Melbourne, for instance, ordered home, allowed to come back into the office for a couple of weeks and then back home again for a really long, like we're talking 4 months, they've literally had to be at home. So what's your experience been with that?
Yeah, so for the majority of our customer services workforce, we've had in New Zealand, we've had 2 lockdowns. So the first lockdown kind of came, obviously, as it did for everybody, as a real surprise. It was, as I mentioned earlier, was a real kind of panic, and we needed to build a plan really quickly to get all of our staff working from home so we could continue to support Aucklanders through the pandemic. And I mean, we only imagine that being a very short-term piece of work. We imagined they'd go home, until the lockdown was lifted and they'd come back into work. But what we found, as I mentioned, was productivity really lifted, and our engagement of our people, because of the conscious effort that we made in order to keep them engaged and talk to them and ask them questions and hold fun events still remotely like you would when they're in the office, stayed up, if not actually went a little bit higher than it was before. So, when it came time, to say, it's open now, people can come back to the office, we literally only had 5 or 6 people, a handful of people who said, yeah, I'm ready I want to come back. And so, we've actually managed we had 2 floors of a contact centre here in Auckland. And we've managed to close down one of them, and we're in the process now of looking at what we do with the second one, because obviously we've only got that handful of people. So yeah, I think what's been key has been people feeling like they are really motivated and held accountable to be able to serve those customers while they're still at home. And everything is available digitally. All of their systems are available online, so that's been great. And the second thing is making sure that engagement is kept really high, and that our team leaders and our all of our support teams have the support they need in order to support their team and keep them motivated and engaged in their work. So yeah, that's what I've found.
Thank you. Emma, you work for a bank, risk, compliance, security, privacy, omnipresent, shall we call it. What's your perspective on this? Is it a little bit different to Dave, or were there slightly different challenges?
Look, there were slightly different challenges, and it's moved on a lot since then. So during the initial lockdown, and so my sites are located, so we didn't have a second lockdown because my sites are Wellington based and Hawke's Bay based. So it was only Auckland that had a second lockdown in New Zealand. But during the first one, we physically had to have our contact centre staff go into the office. So we had a reliance on some old technology, which we meant for full call recording, which we require, that we need the on-site call loggers, so people physically had to go into the office. A lot of our supporting ecosystem around that were all able to work remotely. So we were one of the only key parts of the bank who were physically going into the office. We had to make a lot of changes on site to spread people out, to have all this distancing and, you know, get screens built and installed at very short notice. But we already had in our plan and roadmap to move to a new solution, but what it's allowed us to do is really fast track that. So we knew that we couldn't implement a new solution during that time for several reasons. Partly our system's really complex. However, we used the time wisely as a bit of a test and learn. So some parts of our business, which were really quite simple, we installed a BCP version of our in-state new cloud-based solution. So we were able to stand that up and implement it. We have, during this time, rolled out a whole lot of collaboration tools with all of our staff across the board, so those who were even in the office and those remotely. So actually we encourage people to use them. So we used Teams, so Office 365, so that people could collaborate and hold meetings in a different way, make sure that people were still really connected with those who weren't in the office. So what it allowed us to do is actually put in all the groundwork for people to be able to work remotely. We since then have we fast-tracked deployment of remote-enabled devices, which we were, as soon as they were available again, we had to wait for stock to arrive. But when they did, we swapped out all our technology so that everyone was match fit and ready. We put in place a interim alternate solution so that we would be able to work remotely if needed, if we did go into a second lockdown. Luckily enough, we haven't had to do that, but we've been then putting around all the wraparound support, testing and learning as we go about what we might need to do to really make it successful when we do have the full in-state solution. Just this week, we've been able to, there's been some massive floods in our Hawke's Bay region where I've got a site, and a number of our staff were unable to get into the office due to flooding, and actually they were able to work successfully at home remotely. So it's already starting to prove itself, and it wasn't a big upheaval for anyone. They're used to it. They know how to utilize the tools, and they understand how we can track and measure, and we can keep engaged.
Thank you. We're going to change pace a little bit, and we're going to talk about well-being. And again, another Snapshotz insight, and I'm going to kind of wrap it into all together. So 79% of organisations provide a timeout or other supporting systems. 1% of staff avail themselves of those support systems, which is a little bit challenging. And the other insight that Deepak had is around motivating and keeping staff engaged is a significant challenge for all centres. So that real people aspect. And I know we don't have a lot of time, and we actually have a question around these numbers, Deepak, which I thought was very interesting. I think we've got a spy out there attending this particular webinar. And the question, and I'm going to ask you the question, Deepak, so that we can maybe get some insight and then go back to Emma and Dave. With only 1% taking advantage of the wellbeing programs, how does this level of non-take-up, shall we call it, affect the wellbeing strategies?
Very simply, Fiona, it is a cancer that begins to eat into the team's productivity. And it is something that if we do not get greater engagement, we know that I think there's plenty of evidence and stats around how contact center agents, frontliners, are particularly susceptible to greater levels of stress just because of the kind of work that they do. And so, yes, if because of this high levels of stress, because of the conditions that they're in, we do know that if this is not addressed and they don't get the right help, if they don't get the right support, we will be losing productivity. The reasons for that are many that we see, and 2 or 3 of them are: one is that it's cultural. Secondly is that we don't want to lose our job. we may seem to be seen as weak, and really from a supervisory perspective, we tend to be confrontational rather than saying, look, maybe you're not feeling well, perhaps you might need to go see the docs, and then address it at a general level rather than at a specific level. So yes.
Thanks, Deepak. I'm going to ask Emma to comment on motivation and well-being, all as a bundle, because we don't see a human as a motivation dimension here and a well-being dimension there. They're actually a whole person. Emma, how does your organisation continue to keep staff motivated, and what are their experiences?
Sure. Look, I'll tap into the sort of the question as well in the stat that Deepak put up, because I think the formalised support systems are only part of the picture. So the stat to me could be a bit of a misleading stat, because there's a whole lot of other sort of non-tangible things that you refer to, strategies around wellbeing and things that actually may not necessarily be as formalised to track and measure. So I think that also links into what we do as an organisation around that to help and support staff and keep them motivated. We have a lot of wraparound supporting activity in regards to that. So Kiwibank sponsors a wellbeing, mental health and wellbeing app that John Kerwin, who's an ex-famous All Black, established, and we have a number of courses and things that we put our people through, and a lot of it's so one of the courses that we put our people through is called Good Yarn, and it's actually all about your mental health and well-being and having good conversations, and it's about that human connection and making sure you don't lose sight of that. So you'll never be able to fully track and measure and report on those kind of initiatives, but they're the things that really help and motivate staff and really keep them engaged because they know that you care about them. So we've also done a large piece of work to understand the motivation and drivers of our people. We've tried to understand a lot about and looking at indicators such as attrition internally and externally to see, because that's often an early indication of people aren't engaged and they aren't motivated. So we've established a what we call learning pathways. So it's from the time people are onboarded, it's about their own growth and development and movement through the organisation, and it's linked to REM. So as you learn new skills and capabilities based at your own pace, we'll actually pay you a bit more in regards to those things. So it's very much a wraparound support. It's about go at your own pace in regards to those things, but actually being with us as part of a career and really, making sure, and from my own previous personal experience, that there isn't a single silver bullet that's going to help staff suddenly be motivated and engaged. It's about, ensuring that people believe in the work that they're doing, that it's meaningful work and what they do actually makes a difference, and that they feel valued. And, it's those simple components that are the really important and valuable pieces, more so than the monetary rewards, but allowing people to grow and develop personally and professionally. And that's some of the things that we've really focused on and that we know from some of our research has been quite impactful.
Thanks, Emma. Dave, with all due respect, public sector doesn't necessarily have a reputation for wrapping their arms around their people and really taking care of them. But I know you're going to bust that myth. Can you share your story?
Well, I definitely can't say we're a cutthroat organisation, because we definitely do care for our people. I mean, a lot of the things Emma has said is very similar in our organisation. Maybe not quite as formal, but we definitely do, provide a whole lot of wraparound support for our people. The EAP service that we have is one of those things, and we do publicise that a lot. But that is the last line of of support for, I know, for a lot of people. And I can tell you from our annual engagement surveys that we do, you know, one of the highest scores we get in the customer services area is the amount of support they feel from their managers, from their colleagues, from their business partners, and from their customers is high. And it, you know, it seems to kind of creep up year on year on year as well. So, you know, we definitely, you know, we include well-being and well-being mechanisms and tools and training, and a lot of the training that we do of our people, and we ensure they understand, you know, what they can do and you know, where they can go if they need somebody to talk to at any point in time. And you know, we've got a it's quite ironic, we've got an extra 100 number that our people can call now that they are remote, in order to talk to somebody as a support person at any point in time. So if they've had a bad interaction, or if they're having trouble in an interaction with a customer, you know, they can call that number and somebody will pick up an answer and help them out. And you know, that really helps our people to know we're there and that we care.
That's fabulous, and you have absolutely busted the myth. So we're nearly at the time. Deepak, just some closing remarks from you before we close off today.
Well, yes, thank you all for staying with us on this for this full hour. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dave and Emma, for your time as well, and for Fiona for masterfully taking us through this session. Importantly for us, I think what's come out of this conversation for me is that we need to be able to assess, measure, and then be mindful of our people. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepak, and a huge thanks to Emma and Dave for joining us from across the ditch. Thanks to Snapshotz as Auscontact's accreditation partner, which is a long-term partnership, I have to say. To everyone that joined us today, thank you for your time, and wherever you may be, have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and stay well. Goodbye.